Back on Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, reminding you head over to youtube.com. Subscribe to our channel there. Of course, leave us a comment if you would about what we're talking about. And of course, find us free and available on all of your favorite podcast platforms. Download us today, including Spotify, Odyssey. Leave us a 5-star review and then follow me on my personal Twitter page. That would be at JMCH316. So if the Hawks were able to pull this deal off to get DeJounte Murray for Gallo and some draft picks, is that it? Would that be the final thing that the Hawks do? Hawks would have a pretty good roster at that point, and you hadn't really changed up a whole lot. Now, let's go back to what Travis Schlenk told The Athletic a couple of weeks ago about don't expect major overhauls to this team. Don't expect too many big changes, things like that. Now, again, I will say, if you add DeJounte Murray to your roster, that's a big deal. That is a big move, and that is a game changer kind of move. That's not some small little, defensive player, this, that, and the other, and the Hawks are going to make some moves on their bench and things like that. Lou Williams will be gone. They got to figure out if they want to bring DeLon Wright back or whatever. If not, then go find a defensive-minded point guard, whatever. There's little side moves and things like that. The only name that I could see them going after, and I've said this before, because we've heard that they're out of the Rudy Gobert sweepstakes, right? That's probably not realistic going to happen. The only other name that the Hawks I could see making a move for, if they really are going to move on from John Collins, would be to go after DeAndre Ayton. Now, I've said before, I'm not a fan of going after Ayton. Few different reasons. Number one is, why would an organization that is ready to win the NBA championship, which the Suns are, they're not a Johnny-come-lately, let's hope we can get in the – no, they were in the finals 2 years ago. They're ready to win an NBA title. They've got Booker. They've got Ayton. They've got Chris Paul, right? They've got the pieces that they like, and they can tweak and things like that. They got the guys that they need. They can win an NBA title. Why would an organization, and I understand that this GM group didn't draft him, but it's the number one overall draft pick that's starting to come around. Why would an organization get rid of a guy, the number one overall draft pick, who helps your roster win, and one of your star players is going to be gone in probably a couple of years, and so you're going to trade him away, and you're just going to be left with Booker? Now, I understand that there were angst in the front office between Monty Williams and Ayton. And remember, Monty Williams came out in the press conference after the series was over and said that it was an internal issue and this, that, and the other. But, brother, you got to figure it out. With all due respect, you don't just move on from a guy because, he got his Pampers overfilled one night because he didn't get enough playing time or whatever. You got to do what's best for your organization. So I'm still, again, he's a restricted free agent. You're going to have to sign and trade for Ayton. You ain't getting Ayton for free. And they're just not going to say, oh, just give him a cash offer. And no, you're going to have to sign and trade. And that would make sense for the Hawks because it's not about that they can just go out there and add a whole bunch of payroll onto their roster. They have to move some pieces around to do it. And if John Collins is really and truly, like the blue checkmark media continues to tell me, if he really and truly is going to be traded, because that's what everybody's saying. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when John Collins would be traded. What other deal would make kind of sense? Now, supposedly, and again, believe this for what you will, that maybe Ayton would take a little bit less than a max. Max would be 4 for 131 is what a max would be. Okay. That's $30+ million a year, right? 30, 35 million, 33, whatever the math works out. You go out and divide 131 by 4 and come up with what it is. It's over 30-something million dollars a year. Okay, again, from the Hawks standpoint, Trae Young has said he doesn't want to move on from Capella, that he really likes Capella and he wants to keep him here. Okay, that also kind of makes it maybe not possible. You're gonna pay a lot more for Ayton, who gives you 3 more points and 2 less rebounds per game and is not an elite rim defender. Just too many things that don't make sense for Ayton for me. But outside of that, how else are you going to move John Collins? How else are you going to do it? And we'll talk more about this in just a second, but want to remind you, go to our friends betonline.net. That's your number one source for all your betting needs and sports information. Look, one great thing about summertime, right, is you got baseball every day. right? You got baseball, you got soccer, you got boxing, things like that on the weekend. But with baseball right now, it's every day. And that's a great thing. If you're into wagering and you want to get a few ducats, right? I want to make a couple of bucks this summer. I got to go on vacation, right? I need a few extra bucks. I got a couple of bets I can make. Go to betonline.net. All of your league reviews and news. You can get all the reviews of Major League Baseball. It's your source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and all of your scores on that. And look, it's the best spot to go to for when you need podcast news and updates about all things in the world of sports. It's the easiest way to be able to bet on MMA, boxing, golf, baseball. Everything is available to you there at betonline.net. So head to the website today. You can use your mobile device. You can learn about different trends and actions, but betonline.net is where the game starts. So head over there today and start wagering quick and easy and start making a few bucks for this summertime. So I don't know of another name that would make sense to involve John Collins in if you're talking about making a trade, because all the other guys, the Zach Levines, the Bradley Beals, they're not going to be available. If you're getting DeJounte Murray, then Donovan Mitchell doesn't make a whole lot of sense at this point. I don't know where you go. And I'm going to throw out a name, and I'm prefacing this by saying that, and I don't think this would ever happen. And I'm not for this. And maybe this was more realistic a couple of days ago. But is Ben Simmons the kind of guy that the Hawks would go after? Now, again, I don't want anything to do with Ben Simmons. I don't want him here. I'm talking about what would they do, right? What get the wristband on there that says WWHD. What would the Hawks do? Would they be interested in that? Now, that deal is probably not very realistic because Simmons will stay in Brooklyn now that Kyrie's opting in and KD's going to be happy and they're going to run it all back and they're going to have all those guys. And frankly, like I said, I don't want anything to do with Ben Simmons, but what other name are you going to go? If it's not Ayton, and let's say it's not Ben Simmons, who would fit a need? If I could get a focused Ben Simmons and he could be my wing defender and this, that, and the other, and I could include Collins and whatever else in a package for him, and have to be more than Collins because of the money. I don't know. There doesn't seem to be another good name now that Grant's been traded to Portland, right? There just doesn't seem to be another guy. So if my options are to go after DeAndre Ayton and make that deal to include Collins, or keep Collins and let's get this thing figured out, I'm much more in the camp of keep Collins because I don't have to give up as many assets. I don't have to overpay for DeAndre Ayton. I don't have to do any of those things. And that's why I just don't understand the fascination of why Collins has to be moved. There's been no angst. And again, I work for the flagship radio station for the Atlanta Hawks, and I talk to people and I interview people and get some inside information. I've not heard that there's been angst between the Hawks and John Collins. They just gave him 5 for $125 last year. That there hasn't been this issue. Well, Trae Young and all that. If Trae Young was that angst about John Collins, he would not have been in favor of him signing last year. Come on, guys. I mean, got to use a little common sense in this kind of stuff. We heard about the angst between those two guys more than a year ago, more than a season ago. It was during, when they were making their, in the year that they went to the Eastern Conference Finals, there was angst all year long. That's when those stories got reported. This wasn't a brand new thing that popped up. So miss me with that whole take. But for whatever reason, there's this fascination that we have to trade Collins. And this is where I start to get a little bit concerned is while the Murray deal would be fantastic and you're not giving up a whole lot, what player am I getting in the mix for to use John Collins as trade bait? Who's going to have some value? He's got a decent enough salary at $25 million that you can make that work with a lot of top players in the league. But if it's not Ayton and it's not Ben Simmons, and I don't want either of those guys, I'd rather add Murray and keep everything else as is, and then add a couple pieces here, there, everywhere, and all that good kind of stuff, as the Beatles would say. I'd rather do that. But if there really is this fascination to trade John Collins, again, as good as the Murray deal would be, you better show me a deal that's going to make just as much sense for John Collins. All right, when we get back, everybody acts like they're celebrating the idea of we didn't get Watson here in Atlanta, but that wasn't your tune just a few months ago. We'll talk about that next. It's Hitting Hard with Jon Chuckery on Locked On Sports Atlanta.